To start with our video discussion regarding Republic Act 9679, or an act further strengthening the Home Development Mutual Fund and for other purposes, I would like to share a brief history on how we came up to this law. The Home Development Mutual Fund, also known as the Pag-IBIG Fund, was created on June 11, 1978 by virtue of Presidential Decree number 1530 to address two of the country's basic needs: generation of savings and provisions of shelter for the Filipino workers. Under this decree, two agencies administered Pag-IBIG Fund, namely Social Security System for the funds from government workers to meet the urgent need to consolidate all long-term, low-interest housing funds from government workers. On June 4, 1979, Executive Order number 538 was issued merging the two funds into what is known as Pag-IBIG Fund, which stands for Pagtutulungan sa Kinabukasan, Ikas, Bangko, Industriya at Gobyerno. It remained under the administration of the NHMFC until PD number 1530 was amended by PD number 1752 on December 14, 1980. Making it an independent corporation with its own board of trustees. Shortly after the administration of President Corazon C. Aquino, Pag-IBIG contributions were suspended from May to July 1986. However, on August 1, 1986, former President Aquino issued Executive Order number 35 directing the resumption of mandatory Pag-IBIG membership under more liberal terms. On January 1, 1987, marked the return of Pag-IBIG membership to a voluntary program under Executive Order number 90. The next 8 years witnessed the growth of Pag-IBIG Fund as a voluntary fund. On June 17, 1994, then President Fidel V. Ramos signed Republic Act number 7742, which reverted Pag-IBIG membership to mandatory effective January 1, 1995. On July 21, 2009, then President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo signed into law RA number 9679, otherwise known as the Home Development Mutual Fund Law of 2009. The new law and its implementing rules and regulations took effect on August 27, 2009 and November 3, 2009 respectively. Its landmark provisions are those expanding the mandatory coverage of the Pag-IBIG Fund to include all employees compulsory covered by SSS and GSIS, as well as Filipinos employed by foreign-based employer, exempting Pag-IBIG Fund employees from the coverage of the salary standardization law and the certain tax exemption privileges. Under Republic Act 9679, Section 3, Statement of Objectives. Towards this end, the state shall integrate all laws relating to Home Development Mutual Fund to effectively achieve the following objectives. A. To improve the quality of life of its citizens by providing them with sufficient shelter. B. To provide for an integrated nationwide provident saving system. And C. To provide housing through mobilization of funds for shelter finance. Under the implementing rules and regulations of Republic Act 9679, Rule 2, Section 2, Statement of Funds Objectives. In general, the objectives of the funds are: A. Improve the quality of life of its members by developing and promoting an integrated, nationwide, sound, and viable tax-exempt mutual provident saving system suitable to the needs of the employed and other earning groups. B. Improve the quality of life of its members by promoting home ownership through extension of affordable housing loans. C. Stimulate and assist the shelter industry through the extension of developmental and institutional financing. D. Invest the provident savings of its members taking into consideration profitably and safety of the funds as a means of providing them provident benefits upon termination of their membership in the fund. E. provide small and short-term loans, other benefits and assistance program to its members consistent with the fund's provident character, and F. Design and implement other programs that shall further promote and mobilize savings and provide additional resources for the mutual benefit of its members with appropriate returns on the savings and investments.
What is the Home Development Mutual Fund? The Home Development Mutual Fund, otherwise known as Pag-IBIG or Pagtutulungan sa Kinabukasan, Ikaw, Bangko, Industriya at Gobyerno Fund. It is a mutual provident savings system for private and government employees and other earning groups. It is supported by matching mandatory contributions of their respective employers with housing as the primary investment. So the benefits you can avail of in this law are first, savings, second, short-term loans, and third, housing programs.
Let's discuss savings. It is the contribution that a member makes together with the employer counterpart are credited to his total accumulated value or TAV. A member contributing 2% of his monthly compensation doubles his savings immediately with the addition of the employer counterpart contribution. A member contributing 1% of his monthly compensation triples his savings as the employer counterpart remains at 2%. Members' contributions are deducted from the gross income prior to compensation of the income tax. Member savings earn annual dividends that are also tax-free.
Next benefit is the short-term loan programs. They are meant to provide assistance to its members provided that they are active and have made at least 24 monthly contributions. There are two short-term loan programs that a member may avail of when the need arises. First, the Multi-Purpose Loan Program was designed to help finance members' immediate medical, educational, or livelihood needs, minor home improvement, purchase of appliances and furniture, and other related needs. Meanwhile, the Calamity Loan Program is extended to members who have been affected by a recent calamity, as proven by a declaration of calamity in the area of their residence. Lastly, the housing programs that an eligible member may avail of in the form of housing loans are either first, the End-User Financing Program, or second, Mag-ang Pabahay, Descending Buhay Program.
We also have this End-User Financing Program. A member may avail of a loan to finance any of the following. 1. Purchase of a fully developed lot not exceeding 1,000 square meters, provided that it is within the residential area. 2. Purchase of a residential house and lot, townhouse or condominium, inclusive of parking slot. 3. Construction or completion of a residential unit on a lot owned by the member. 4. Home improvement. 5. Refinancing of an existing mortgage with an institution acceptable to the fund, provided that the loan is not in default within 12 months prior to the date of application and the said loan has a repayment history of 2 years with the original mortgage. Number 6 is a combination of loan purposes which shall be limited to the following. 1. Purchase of a fully developed lot not exceeding 1,000 square meters. Purchase of a residential unit, whether old or new, with home improvement. Refinancing of an existing mortgage with home improvement. Refinancing of an existing mortgage, specifically a lot loan with construction or of a residential unit thereon. Another program is Maagang Pabahay, Descending Buhay Program. A qualified member may purchase an acquired asset of fund either in cash or through a housing loan at a very reasonable price. A buyer who purchases an acquired asset in cash is entitled to a 20% discount on the property sales price, while a buyer who purchases through a housing loan is entitled to a 15% discount on the property sales price.
Now, to qualify for a Pag-IBIG housing loan, a member must satisfy the following requirements. First, must be a member under the Pag-IBIG 1 for at least 24 months as evidenced by the remittance of at least 24 contributions at the time of the loan application. Second, not more than 65 years old at the date of loan application and must be insurable. provided further that he is not more than 70 years old at loan maturity. Third, has the legal capacity to acquire and encumber real property. Fourth, has passed satisfactory background credit and employment business checks conducted by the developer and the Pag-IBIG fund. Fifth, has no outstanding Pag-IBIG housing loan either as a principal borrower or a co-borrower. Sixth, has not availed of a Pag-IBIG housing loan that was foreclosed, cancelled, brought back due to default, or subjected to dacion and pago, which shall include cases where the borrower is no longer interested to pursue the loan and surrenders the property. And lastly, may have an outstanding balance Pag-IBIG multipurpose loan but which is updated in payments at the time of the loan application. A member whose multipurpose loan is in arrears shall be required to pay his arrears over the counter to update his account.
Now let's talk about the coverage under the Hdmf law. For mandatory coverage, all employees who are ought to be covered by the Social Security System or SSS, provided that actual membership in the SSS shall not be a condition precedent to the mandatory coverage in the fund. It shall include, but are not limited to, number one, a private employee, whether permanent, temporary, or provisional, who is not over 60 years old. Number two, a household helper earning at least 1,000 a month. This household helper is any person who renders domestic services exclusively to a household, such as a driver, a gardener, a cook, governess, and other similar occupations. Number three, a Filipino seafarer. Upon the signing of the standard contract of employment between the seafarer and the manning agency, which together with the foreign ship owner act as the employer. Number four, a self-employed person. This is regardless of trade, business, or occupation, with an income of at least 1,000 a month and not over 60 years old. And number five, expatriate, who is not more than 60 years old and is compulsorily covered by the Social Security System or SSS regardless of citizenship, nature and duration of employment, and the manner by which the compensation is paid. In the absence of an explicit exemption from SSS coverage, the such expatriate, upon assumption of office, shall be covered by the fund. An expatriate shall refer to a citizen of another country who is living and working in the Philippines. All employees who are subject to mandatory coverage by the Government Service Insurance System or GSIS, regardless of their status of appointment, including members of the judiciary and constitutional commissions. They are the uniform members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Bureau of Fire Protection, the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, and the Philippine National Police. Number two, Filipino employed by foreign-based employers. Filipino employed by foreign-based employers, whether they are deployed here or abroad, or a combination thereof. When does mandatory coverage take effect? For private employers, mandatory coverage shall take effect on the first day of their business operations. For employers who are not subject to mandatory coverage prior to RA 9679, mandatory coverage shall take effect on January 1, 2010. For employers with existing suspension or waiver of fund coverage, mandatory coverage shall take effect immediately after the expiration of the respective suspension or waiver of coverage. For existing membership and coverage, all records and documents, as well as the amounts and benefits already accrued to the members covered by the fund under PD 1752, as amended, shall be transferred, continued, and integrated into the members' coverage under RA 9679. All rights received, duty imposed, penalties accrued, and/or proceeding commenced under PD 1752, as amended, particularly those RA 7742, shall continue to subsist and shall be enforced under the provisions of RA 9679 and its IRR. Now, for voluntary coverage. An individual at least 18 years old but not more than 65 years old may register with the fund under voluntary membership. However, said individual shall be required to comply with a set of rules and regulations for Pag-IBIG members, including the amount of contribution and schedule of payment. In addition, they shall be subject to the eligibility requirements in the event of availment of loans and other programs or benefits offered by the fund. Eligibility requirements for voluntary coverage. Non-working spouses. More devote full time to managing the household and family affairs, unless they also engage in another vocation or employment which is subject to mandatory coverage, provided the employed spouse is registered Pag-IBIG member and consents to the fund membership of non-working spouse. Filipino employees for foreign government or international organization, or their wholly owned instrumentality based in the Philippines in the absence of an administrative agreement with the fund. Employees of an employer who is granted a waiver of suspension of coverage by the fund under RA 9679. Leaders and members of religious groups. A member separated from employment, local or abroad, or ceased to be self-employed but would like to continue paying his or her personal contribution. Such member may be a pensioner, investor, or any individual with passive income or allowances. Public officials or employees who are not covered by the GSIS, such as barangay officials, including barangay chairman, barangay council members, chairman of Barangay Sangguniang Kabataan, and barangay secretaries and treasurers. Such other earning individuals or groups as may be determined by board by rules and regulations.
The Pag-IBIG contribution. So before I start, what is Pag-IBIG savings? So Pag-IBIG savings is also called Provident Savings. Is a regular savings program for all members of the Pag-IBIG funds or home development mutual funds. For employees, this involves a salary deduction for Pag-IBIG contribution with the employer's share of contribution. For other types of Pag-IBIG members, like for example, self-employed, overseas Filipino workers, and others, this involves paying out of pocket for their contribution. So each contribution payment is saved in the Hdmf under the member's name. And pay Pag-IBIG contribution. Anyone who is registered with the Hdmf and has a Pag-IBIG MID number or registration tracking number can contribute. Paying your first contribution makes your Pag-IBIG membership official. Your membership starts on the day of your first payment as reflected in your Pag-IBIG fund receipts. So, where do your contribution go? Pag-IBIG fund uses the contribution collected from the members to provide short-term or housing loans. You can also enjoy the same benefits as a Pag-IBIG member when you need to borrow money for a personal need or a home purchase. So why pay your contribution regularly? There is no penalty when you skip paying a monthly Pag-IBIG contribution. However, inconsistent payments can affect your Pag-IBIG loan approval and the amount you can borrow. So how to qualify? So to qualify for Pag-IBIG loans, member must have paid at least 24 monthly contribution. So how can we compute your Pag-IBIG contribution? If you're wondering how much the minimum monthly saving is, find the applicable Pag-IBIG contribution table below based on your present employment or non-employment status. So the first one is Pag-IBIG contribution table in 2021 for employees and employer. And of employed members are shared by employees and employer. The employee share or contribution is deducted from the monthly salary. In addition, employers pay their share of contribution for every employee. This amount must never be deducted from their worker's salary. Employees earning less than 1,500 monthly contribute 1% of their basic salary, while the employers contribute 2%. So those earning more than 1,500 monthly contribute 2% of their basic salary, while their employees contribute 2%. To compute how much you can pay as an employee or employer, use the Pag-IBIG contribution table above and this formula. The formula is Pag-IBIG contribution monthly basic salary times employees or employers contribution rate. So the example is, if your sample computation for a worker with 3,000 monthly basic salary, employees share is 3,000 times 2% equals 60 pesos. Employee share is 3,000 times 2% is 60 pesos. The employee's monthly salary deduction for public contribution is 60 pesos. The employer adds 60 pesos for a total of 120 monthly savings. And the next example is workers with at least 5,000 monthly basic salary. The maximum monthly salary used for Pag-IBIG contribution computation is 5,000. This means if your monthly salary is 5,000 or higher, your contribution is computed as follows. So employee's share is 5,000 times 2% equals 100, while your employee share is 5,000 times 2% equals 100, regardless of your monthly salary and how much it will increase in the future. As long as it is equal to or above 5,000, your salary deduction for monthly Pag-IBIG contribution will always be 100 pesos. Your employer is required to remit that amount plus the employer counterpart contribution worth 100 pesos. Your total monthly savings as a Pag-IBIG member is 200 pesos. Verse 2. Pag-IBIG contribution table in 2021 for self-employed members. Self-earning members such as entrepreneurs, freelancer, PUV drivers, market vendors, and others shoulder their full monthly Pag-IBIG contribution. Use the Pag-IBIG contribution table above and formula below to compute how much you pay as a monthly saving to Pag-IBIG. IBIG contribution equals monthly income times contribution rate. So for example, for self-employed with a monthly salary of 1,500 monthly income is 1,000 times 1% equals 15 pesos. Sample, if you're self-employed with at least 5,000 monthly income is 5,000 times 2% equals 100. The Pag-IBIG fund uses 5,000 as the maximum income for computing a self-employed member's contribution. This means regardless of how much you earn, as long as it is equal to or higher than 5,000, you should pay only at least 100 pesos monthly. However, you may opt to pay an additional 100 pesos for a total monthly savings of 200 pesos or higher, especially if you plan to get a Pag-IBIG housing loan in the future. Pag-IBIG contribution table in 2021 for overseas Filipino workers. First is A, for OFW whose employers are subject to mandatory Pag-IBIG coverage. For computation of OFW earning at least 5,000 monthly, because the maximum monthly income that Pag-IBIG uses for computation is 5,000 pesos, your contribution is calculated this way. So OFW share 5,000 times 2% equals 100. Foreigner employer share is 5,000 times 2% equals 100. This means you and your employer should contribute at least 100 each. Your total monthly saving is 200 pesos. Next is B, for OFWs whose employer are exempted from Pag-IBIG coverage. If your overseas employer is not subject to mandatory Pag-IBIG coverage, then you are required to contribute 2% of your monthly salary with 5,000 pesos as long as the maximum monthly income used to computing Pag-IBIG contribution. You must pay at least 100 pesos monthly. Or Pag-IBIG contribution table in 2021 for a non-working spouse. For example, a full-time housewife whose husband earned 4,000 per month contribute 40 pesos monthly. So here's how to compute it. 4,000 divide 2 times 2% equals 40. The non-working spouse contribute rate is 2% because 50% of her working spouse salary is 2,000, which falls in the salary range of 1,500 pesos. EB contribution table in 2021 for Kasamba hires. Top employers must shoulder the full contribution for their Kasamba hires with a monthly salary of at least 5,000 pesos. Employers should contribute 3% of their worker's salary if it's less than 1,500 or 4% if the salary is 1,500 to 4,999 range. So the sample completion for Kasamba earning 3,000 monthly is first, employer share is 3,000 times 4% equals 120, while the Kasambahay don't need to contribute. Kasambahay earning 5,000 or higher are required to pay 2%. Employees share through salary deduction. Their employer should also add 2% of their monthly salary to their monthly contribution. So sample completion for Kasamba earning at least 5,000 monthly. Employee share is 5,000 times 2% equals 100. Kasambay share is 5,000 times 2% equals 100. This means Kasambay earning 5,000 and above have a total Pag-IBIG monthly savings of 200 pesos. So the question is, why you should consider increasing your monthly Pag-IBIG contribution? You can contribute an amount that's higher than the minimum required by the Pag-IBIG fund. Your Pag-IBIG contribution goes directly to the Pag-IBIG regular savings program. It's like putting your money in a bank, except your money is being managed by the government. The benefits of saving money in a government guaranteed saving facility is you get a high annual dividend earnings. This is because Pag-IBIG invests at least 70% of its funds in housing finances, corporate funds, and government securities. So that's all about the Pag-IBIG contribution. I hope you learned something, and thank you.